Ryan Hanley, are you ready to be fearlessly questioned today?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, good. So before we kind of jump into it, before the gloves come off, before we might not speak to each other after this thing, why don't you tell people your story as it relates to kind of your stance on action versus perfection, what they need to know to kind of set the stage here?
Basically, everything I've done has been action first, perfection third or fourth, maybe. I've always been a believer in do the thing, right? You'll get better at the thing with time, and eventually the thing will look perfect to someone. Because I don't believe that as a creator, you'll ever feel that your work is perfect, right? And then the minute that you do is like the day that your life is over, because then what do you do next, right? Like nothing more to work for. You've created the perfect thing. So um, just everything with my work in content marketing, with my work in insurance, and every job I've ever had, I've just been go 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 go. I'm one of those guys who doesn't read the instructions to the new toy that my kid gets. I just start slamming things together and screwing things into holes and hoping that it doesn't break. And um, you know, look, when you take that type of methodology, I'm not going to say that it's right for everybody or that it's the best way to do things, but things happen, things get done, you learn a lot. The issue, things you need to be aware of are that you're going to fail. Things are going to look ugly. They're not going to work. People are going to say, people are going to find editing mistakes, like the grammar police is gonna catch you and put you in handcuffs and email you incessantly about your use of their versus their and your versus you are or whatever. So, but I get an incredible amount done. So my advice to people who are willing to take on the possibility of failure is that do first, learn, and then do a little better, and then do more.
Now, we'll just take the gloves off right now, and we'll ask the question that really I set the whole thing up for. I mean, really, it's just the whole show's based on. And the question that I would ask to you is would you be more successful if you left a few things in the oven a little longer?
That's a really good question. It's something I think about a lot, actually. Um, no, probably. I don't think that. I think for me, I think for some people, yes. I think everybody is different in the way that they create. For me, I have an incredibly hard time baking things. Right? It just the time it takes. If I go back, I think about it. I like the raw nature. I like casual enthusiasm, energy. That's my thing in the way that I create, and how I learn is by doing. Right. So if I created something and then I packaged it up and then I edited it and I came back to it the next morning and I slept on it. I think for larger bodies of work, that's a really good process. Like for my book, I mean, yeah, I have a paid editor. My wife is reading the book. I have a bunch of beta readers, people who who want to read the book before it's launched. They're gonna get the initial copy like in another week or so. I'm gonna get that out to them. So yeah, for larger bodies of work, you want to put in that time and really try to make it as close to perfect as you can. But I think for the everyday grind, for the blog posts, for the YouTube videos, for these type of shows, just do the work, learn, and then do it better the next time. Because people aren't going a year back into your archive and judging you based on the work that you did a year ago. They're judging you based on what you do today. And if they see improvement, they're willing to take that ride with you.
I mean, it sounds good. You're making a convincing case so far. We'll see what we can do here. But I want to toss out a couple examples. Just in my personal time knowing you, I don't mean this to pick on you, but these are just kind of observations of your action-oriented nature. So like about, let's just say maybe 6 to 8 months ago, you were on your podcast planting your flag in the insurance marketing space with the Grow program as that's being your thing.
Yep.
Obviously, I would assume that was something that was action-oriented that didn't take off, and you decided to then kind of let that taper off. And then also, I know we've had conversations where, I don't really want to just send out my newsletter when I just have a post. I want to do like a thing. I know that you've tried to do it a couple times,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's fully there yet. Am I correct?
Yeah. So okay. So let's talk about the Grow program. So about 2 years ago, a good friend of mine, Jason Cass, and I, who were both evangelists for the independent insurance agency model, which I know you are as well, hooked up and said, we have to, someone needs to start helping agents do digital marketing better. And we're both outgoing guys, and we both, like to create and like to help, and I very much believe in the independent agency model. It gave me a lot of what I have today is because of my work inside that industry. So we created something called the Grow program, which is essentially a digital marketing consultancy, would be a stretch, but educational platform, we'll say. And I actually would never have left Grow, but there were certain things happening inside my family's agency that I was working for at the time as the director of marketing that were taking up too much of my time to be a valuable part of Grow. So there were opportunities to potentially own the agency that I worked for and a lot of other things, and I just basically said, Jason is too good of a friend. He's someone I respect and love, and I would never want to be cutting into his ability to grow that business, just because I was there at the beginning. So I don't think that had anything to do with my action-oriented nature. I basically it was just a decision between two business partners that I couldn't be a valuable resource to them anymore. And I still work with the Grow program quite a bit and help them whenever I can. I just am not an owner of that business anymore. As far as, what was the second part?
Your newsletter.
Newsletter. Okay, so newsletter is a good one. Yes, I would love to have a dedicated weekly newsletter that was unique content. I think it's the best way to deliver a newsletter. As a one-man band, I've given into the fact that I cannot do it. In order for me to do my best work on the videos that I like to create, the blog posts, the podcast, I don't have that extra time to create the newsletter, unique only for the newsletter content. Someday, hopefully, when I have an army of people that I'm working with and we're dominating the world, then yes, I absolutely will get there because I think it's the best way to deliver a newsletter. But for now, I'm putting my best thoughts out into the world in these various methods, and when I feel like one of them is worthy of notifying my email list, I do. I still only send one email a week. I just kind of pick and choose which piece of content I think is the most valuable to my audience, and then I'll send them a notification to check out that wherever it is.
And this is where, if anybody watched, we had our pre-rants kind of go up before this show aired. If anybody checked those out, I mean, you obviously went on your own little tangent. And one of my things that I wanted to get at, and this is really where my entire argument is leading up to, is the fact, this is a big word, it's the T word. You use it often, I use it often. It's one of the biggest things that we can do online. And if we jump out too much, if we are too ahead of ourselves, if we start too many things, do we lose trust along the way? Is it going to be, oh, okay, he's doing this, well, let's see how long it lasts, or okay, they're doing that, and is it going to stick around? How many times can you do that before somebody just stops paying attention entirely?
That is an amazing question. It's something that that I also think about because of this way that I do things quite a bit. I think it comes down to how authentic you are, and I know that's a completely overused word that has been destroyed by marketers, myself included. But I do believe this, right? I believe that all content should be authentic, transparent, and honest. And I've said that 1,000 times on my show and on other shows. And the reason that I believe in those three things, and the reason that I think that if you embody those things as much as you can in your content, that people will follow you willingly to the endeavors that make sense to them and are relevant to them, is because, look, freaking things happen in life, right? Like, there's no way to have a plan and stick to that plan for 30 years. Like, that does not exist anymore. You don't just get, this is why James Altucher is as popular as he is, because it does not exist that you go to college, you get the corporate job, you work at the corporate job for 35 years, you get the huge payoff at the end, you retire into the sunset. Those people that live that life are the vast minority today versus the people who change jobs multiple times, who maybe start their own business 2 or 3 times before they actually find the thing that fits them. So I've kind of taken the approach where I'm going to do the best in the thing that I'm doing at that time, but to try to pretend like I know what the next opportunity is going to be, I mean, if things had fallen differently, I would be working for the Grow program still, and Cass and I would be working together. It's just, hey, life happens, and you have to go with where it takes it. But I think what I've tried to bring with me versus all the things that I've done is the same level of authenticity, transparency, and honesty. This is who I am. I've always been focused on the insurance industry. I've always been focused on helping people tell their story better. Maybe it's under I'm wearing a green hat or a blue hat or a red hat, but that message, me being the person that I am, has always been the same. I've never taken on a role and tried to be something that I'm not.
Let's maybe, you talked about transparency. Let me take this one step further. We often, as we relate transparency to the information that we're sharing, as transparent and honest and open. But maybe, because you've never told me that story before, as far as, I mean, maybe you have, but I mean, I follow you probably as closely as anybody, and I haven't heard it before. So is it maybe the fact that maybe we're not as transparent with the behind-the-scenes working to kind of properly set expectations? Like you said, I mean, if somebody were to say, listen, it just didn't work out, they would understand, and that would be kind of a way to diffuse that issue of losing trust?
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's funny. I thought that I've told that story before, and if I haven't, then then maybe I should. You know, the whole thing with Grow was never, you know, and this is probably irrelevant to a lot of people listening, but just in the grand scheme, I'll promise I'll wrap this around into something that is useful. Is that, you know, it was an amicable. It was a choice that I made. I had to decide between things that were going on in my hometown with my family business and this other business that I had started on the side. And look, in some situations, you're put into a corner and you have to make a decision. And I did what I thought was best for Jason, for myself, for my family. And, you know, I probably should have told that story, because I'm sure that people said, well, geez, why isn't he working in there? And I would never want that to be an indictment of Jason or myself. So I probably should have told that story. And if anyone had asked my advice, I probably would have told them to tell that story, because what it does is it says, you know, this is on the up and up. Like, I'm not, you know, there wasn't some big fallout. You know, we weren't sleeping with each other's wives or something, and we had this big.
It's a family show here, Ryan. Come on now.
Yeah, and that's, you know, something scandalous happened, or, you know, there was something worse. I probably should have told that story. That's a good point. Maybe I will. That now I have something to write about or talk about on my show in the future.
Well, you're welcome. You actually have a little bit of support in the comments. And if I wasn't such an amateur Hangout host, I would actually have comment tracker working, which it is not working for whatever reason. But Laura Williams is on your side. She says, right on, Ryan Hanley, do the thing. Definitely supporting you as far as there's actually taking action. But I think the key distinction to make in this whole kind of thing here, before we move on to something else here real quickly, is I think it comes down to knowing yourself, as far as if you have that ability to flip that switch. You know, to do it and to start again and to fail and to kind of rinse and repeat. A lot of people don't have that, I think, and we kind of overlook that, those of us that do. So I guess it has to be in sort of context, as far as who you're talking to, their personality, their characteristics.
I 100% agree with you. I think that there is a huge misunderstanding or misconception, or just people don't want to lie to themselves and believe that somehow you do one thing or you have one good idea and that's like it for you, right? Like, you know, if I wanted, I could have just said the Grow program didn't work. Me running a digital marketing business or being part of a digital marketing business, it isn't in the cards for me. I should just go back and sell insurance again, right? Like that could have been what I did. But instead of what I did is I took the path that I thought I should lead in working inside of my family's agency, but I kept up at 9 p.m. at night writing the blog post, doing the videos on the weekend, because I knew that business would pop up again, and I would have, and the only way to have more opportunities was to stay in the game and to keep working and to keep thinking and to keep trying things. You know, because you might have 1,000 good ideas in your life, and 999 of them may be great ideas. They just don't work for you at that time in your life. And all I think you can hope for is that at some point one of your good ideas hits at the right time, and you can do some cool stuff. And then you can't even believe that that's going to last forever. I've done plenty of cool things that were, boom, they lasted for 6 months. 6 months is over. It's time to move on. And I just think I don't like when I hear people say like, well, I haven't had a good idea yet. That, that's just not true. You just haven't had a good idea at the right time that you could actually capitalize on it.
So we're going to go ahead and turn the tables a little bit on everybody watching and everybody at home listening. I gave you about 30 seconds notice on this one, and let's see what you've had to come up with here in the last 15 minutes. It'll be interesting. But I want you to go ahead and ask the audience one of your own fearless questions, something that you have always kind of wanted to ask people, but haven't really necessarily had the platform, or if it was the right time, or if it would be received well. I can't think of a better time than right now to then ask these people that question.
So this is me asking them a question about, and so for everyone listening, he gave me like 15 seconds before he hit the go live button. He's like, oh yeah, Andrew, gonna have to ask the audience a question. So what I would like to ask people as someone who does hangouts and audio, how much? I guess this isn't a fearless question. I don't know, but I guess I tend to be very
fearless question. It doesn't need to be all full on aggressive. Yeah. We'll give you some slack. Next time you'll get it. We'll expect better from you.
Well, so I do have a question. And it kind of plays into what we're talking about here. My style is very raw. It's very kind of casual and cavalier. I let the stream kind of flow where it will, and I try to ride it, I guess, is the best way to describe how I do my work, at least in the podcast and in the Google Hangout show. Is that a format that people enjoy, or do they like the more polished shows? Like, there are very polished shows that are very well done. I don't think one is right or wrong, but is an unpolished, more off the cuff show, is that less appealing? And maybe what are the unappealing parts of that? Because what I really want to try to do is marry those two. Have a show that is off the cuff to a certain extent, that does have conversation, but at the same time is very sharp and quick and professional. And I would just love to know what parts of my show don't hit those marks so that I can fix them.
All right. Well, was
that a fearless question? I don't know.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I think, and where we're going to go next here with the show might help open the pathways a little bit. But that's kind of what Mia Voss had said similar to, as far as, what do you guys think of my show? So I think it's all that kind of that self-esteem of, and do you guys really like me? Am I okay? Like, how's it? Like, I mean,
I don't care what they. I'm just playing. Look, when you're on camera, you can't help but care what people think. You're trying to produce the best products you possibly can, and this is maybe a diatribe or we're off topic or whatever, but I think the creators who say I just create for me and you can take it or leave it, I think that they are full of crap. I think that is a complete put-on thing. And I know that some musicians are like, I just play my songs and people either like them or don't. And I get that to a certain extent. But you wouldn't be putting... I think that there are very few people who put their work out into the world without some desire to have people connect to it and want to be part of it. Otherwise, you wouldn't put it out into the world. You would just record in your little house, and you would keep your little cassettes and you'd play them for yourself and in your car when you're driving, and that's what you would do, right? Like, if you didn't want people to connect with the thing that you created, you would not put it out into the world. You would keep it for yourself. So I'm sure that people will push back on me and say that, it speaks to me and I have to make it art and it's my thing, but they always want people to connect. So I don't know. I don't think that it's I think that it's good to ask. I think that it helps you grow.
Well, now that you open the bag of worms, or the can of worms that is music, being a former musician, as you can see in the background here, I've thought about that question often. I think I can help people out is not necessarily letting your audience influence you, as in, I think you always need to be aware of how you're perceived. I think awareness is like the key thing when you are creating anything, and knowing how it fits in the world and how it fits in their lives and how you fit into that whole process. That's kind of how I've always viewed it.
Yeah. So my thought on this is that, because you're always going to be influenced, right? Seth Godin wrote a post the other day. I don't know how many people follow Seth's blog, but he wrote a post about, can anyone really be authentic? And essentially what he was saying is, maybe in like the first few moments of birth, you're authentic, you're your person, but then from every moment after that, you are in some way, whether small or large, influenced by your experiences in life. So I think as a creator, I can say that my style, what makes me comfortable, what allows me to deliver the most value to my audience, is to have a list of topic ideas that I want to touch on, and then try to be a guide for my guest through those topics and really let them kind of go where they want, but guide them a little bit. That's what works for me. I think I can do that better, but it would be silly for me to not at least think about or ask for what my let my audience influence me a little bit, right? Like Amelia, right? She said I liked Cavalier. So if I saw that 20 people really liked maybe a certain style, maybe I was a little more excitable, or I was a little more enthusiastic about something, or a little more brash, and I really started to embody that nature of being Cavalier, because it's in me, I just let it out more because I knew that my audience enjoyed that part of what my show is. I think to hold that back would be a mistake, because they're telling me, hey, we want more of that thing. So I think it's okay to let your audience influence. I don't think that you should sell out and just like, hey, if I can make a hit like Miley Cyrus, then I should do more Miley Cyrus type song. Not that I could ever do that, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
Ryan Hanley will not be back as a guest. Bringing it back.
But you know what I'm saying. I think that there's a difference between selling out and listening to your audience and giving them more of the things that they enjoy, because I create it for them.
Well, Nate L says your style makes you seem more like a real person, and he prefers the unpolished versus unpolished is more authentic, is what he's kind of saying. So you do have a little support in that regards. But I want to change gears a little bit here, and I don't think most of the people watching this probably aren't expecting this, and I think this is really where it's at, because every Hangout show we think we're going to talk about marketing and business and all that fun stuff, but action versus perfection spans far beyond just your content and what it's going to do for your business. I think taking it into your personal life as well, and understanding how that this crosses all sorts of lines with whether you're raising your kids, whether you're being a better husband or spouse or whatever, and it's finding those same concepts and principles. And if you were to find success in your personal life, then it's only going to help you carry over. So talking about your personal journey as well, I know something that you recently took action on was into P90X, the world of P90X, and I believe you should be kind of close to finishing that up. Would I be right? Yeah,
I finished on Friday.
Okay, and how do you feel?
I feel great. Great. P90X was an interesting journey, and I think that I haven't worked that hard since I was doing 2-a-days for high school football. I mean, you are completely spent, wiped out afterwards, and it asks you to do things with your body that most people do not do on a daily basis. You're twisting, you're holding, you're pushing, and it's the kind of thing where, if you wait for the perfect moment to do it, it's never going to happen. You're never going to find the perfect time to do it. So I just did it. And it's changed me. And what it did was it taught me discipline. You have to go. To be able to do the more advanced moves, which are part of the program, you have to do the basic moves. And if you skip days, you're not as prepared, and you fall behind for, just your own performance falls behind. So I loved it. In the best shape I've probably been in since I was 25, which was a while ago. And, I'm looking forward to more.
So I guess that was, I guess first let me clarify, was it the original P90X?
Yeah, I actually take it at a studio from a guy who's a master P90X trainer. There's only 25 of these guys in the country, and somehow one of them ended up right next to my office. And so he mixes them all up, 3, 2, 1. He creates some of his own courses. They all have to be approved by the Beachbody, government body or whoever they do that, but it's all different ones. I've done 3, 2, and 1. 2 is definitely, I think, the hardest.
Because I've for the last 4 years done all 3 of them, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think the key to take away from that is, and how it relates to whatever it is that you want it to relate to, is you're not always going to be good at first, and it's finding that discipline within the action to come back and search for more perfection, I guess. Obviously it's never going to be attained, I mean, I guess what's the plan moving forward? Because a lot of people, they think, okay, I'm gonna write, blog posts for 6 weeks and see what happens, or I'm gonna work out for 90 days and see what happens. But then after that, there's no plan, and they're right back to where they started.
Yeah.
Kind of where you at on that?
So I am going to re-up, most likely. I mean, it's worked into my life now, and I will definitely do that. If I may just buy the DVDs and do it at home, now that I kind of understand the exercises, I may not go to the course only because, and not that I'm cheap, but it's expensive, and then I can do them whenever I want to. I don't have to be at a certain place at a certain time. So I may buy the DVDs and just do them at home, but I definitely, it's a part of my life now. As far as, you talk about the blogging thing, I think it completely transcends, right? Like, you only get to see the really high levels results by doing the basic stuff. Like, this is another thing. I get emails from people and they're like, what are things that I can be doing to get to where you are? Like, I'm in any decent place, or where, I know you're a big follower of Marcus Sheridan. Like, how do I get to where he is? Like, what are some things I can be doing? And the only advice I have is, like, start writing. Like, you have to stink first. You have to be terrible first before you can be great. That's the only way to get there. There is no start and then great. It just doesn't happen. You have to build up. You have to learn. You have to fail. And so many people are unwilling to fail, and that is going to be the thing that never gets you to greatness, is your unwillingness to fail. That's a tough lesson to learn. Trust me. I've my career hasn't been like a perfectly straight line to where I am, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be. So, there's a lot of, like, dips that I've had to take to get to this spot, and a lot of places where I've had to stop and rethink everything. And like you said, the Grow program, when we put that together, I thought that was my future for the rest. I thought that was my future for a long time. I really thought that was going to be big, and I still think it can be big. It's just not going to be big with me. And I think you just have to be ready for that stuff.
Completely agree. And anybody that read the event page before we got started here, we promised something, that we were going to do something a little fearless. I don't know. We've got some people watching, and if anybody's brave enough, what we're going to do, and I got another question for Ryan to kind of let you guys work this in, but if anybody has a question, a fearless question that they want to ask Ryan directly, go ahead, drop it in the event page, and we'll go ahead and pick one that is the best, and we're going to have you come on the Hangout if anybody's camera ready. So if it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, it's kind of the turn down your radio if you're listening to the talk radio thing. But we'll give it a shot if anybody wants to be fearless. I know it'll take a little bit for this to catch on, but we'll give it a shot. But following up on what you were saying about actually starting, I think that's the hardest thing. What could you tell somebody today listening to this that is, for whatever reason, I don't have this programmed into my brain, and I doubt that you do too, but there are a lot of people that there's so many different things that go through their head that prevent them from starting. How do you just tell them that they're stupid?
Starting is the easy part. I would actually say starting is the easiest thing you can do. The hard part is doing it is being 6 months in and keeping going. When you've killed yourself for 6 months and you've only hit 10% of where you thought you would be, and understanding that it's going to take 2 years to get to where you want to be and not 6 months, like, that's the hard thing to do. I don't like the whole, like, it's the journey, not the destination thing. Like, for some reason, that analogy drives me nuts. But to believe that you're ever going to get to a point where you don't have to do the thing anymore, I think is crazy. Like, I will always be blogging. Always. It may not be a blog in the nature that it is today, but I'll be writing. It'll be articles for this or articles for that. I mean, people aren't just going to stop writing 30 years from now. So I've made that part of my life. If you are unwilling, I mean, this is talking directly to marketing stuff, if you are unwilling to create videos and write or speak into some sort of audio device and capture it in a tool like SoundCloud or a Google Hangout, if you're unwilling to do these things and you have a business, you need to do them, pay someone else to do them, and just understand that that's going to be part of your business for the rest of your life, is going to be paying someone to do that thing, whether in-house or outside of your business. The thing always has to be done. So just set yourself to it. Don't kill yourself at the beginning. Don't do 400 blog posts in the first month. Just set yourself. I'm going to do 2 blog posts a month until I no longer am in business anymore. And I'm just going to keep doing them. And you just bang every week. You make it your thing, and you just keep doing it, and you push through. Because starting is easy. You can go to freaking Bluehost. What is it? It's $3.99 for a domain. Host it for $6.99 a month, and then buy a Genesis theme for $100, and for $110 you have a site, and you can start blogging tomorrow. Like it literally is that easy to start. And you don't need more than that. Some of the ugliest sites that exist are some of the most popular if your content is good. The hard part is keeping going.
I completely agree, and I would say, whatever that limit is that you set, whether it's 2, whether it's 4, I would cut it in half to start. Because going back to that whole trust thing, not only are you building trust with somebody else, your audience or your family members or whatever, you're also building trust with yourself to follow through on that. And the more you don't follow through on that for yourself, I mean, this sounds a little Tony Robbins-ish, but bear with me here. I think that ultimately plays into it more and more. As you continually fail yourself and break that trust with yourself, then you're just going to, again, accept that to be the normal thing that happens.
Yes, I agree that giving up is a habit, if that's what you're saying. Giving up on something is a habit. Failure is just part of doing business. It's and little failure. I'm already talking about like bankrupt failure. It's not like every time you start a business, like the failure is bankruptcy. It could just be little shifts. So I didn't achieve my goal of being of dominating the insurance world in the marketing space with growth. I'm working on things to dominate it in other ways. Like it's going to happen eventually. It's just working to get there. So if I fail 5 more times, I will get there. And if you don't believe that, then you shouldn't be doing the thing. I mean, this isn't talking about passion. This is just if you have a goal, you have to understand that it's not going to take a linear line to get there. And again, this is all Tony Robbins stuff, but I think I learned these lessons about 2 years ago, and the growth that I've had in my own personal brand and in the businesses that I've worked for has really accelerated since I started to realize these things.
That's good stuff, and I don't know that I could say it any better now. I think we've got a couple people that are dipping their toes in the fearless question waters here. I don't know. We got a couple good responses, but first of all, Matt Rouse asks, how do you define camera ready? I don't really have a definition, but I'm sure it involves fully being clothed. That's one of my only.
You have a shirt on.
Yeah. But I think I'm going to try and bring on Laura Williams here onto the show. She's got a pretty good question. We'll see if it works. I don't know if it's going to work, but this is what live Hangouts are all about, is it not, Ryan?
That's what everyone says.
I don't know if... let's just try this. Because Google doesn't like to populate the people that you want to populate to send the invite to. Let's see what happens when we do this. You want to get a little frisky here?
Tee it up.
All right. So I just posted the link to hop into the Hangout in the event page if Laura wants to hop in. Let's have that happen real quick before Ryan has to get out of here, because he does have somewhere top secret to be in about 10 minutes. So we'll see if we can pull this off.
I have to go get the Duke is what I have to do.
All right, well, that's not very top secret. Or, but
the Duke needs adult supervision.
Well, that's probably one of the better things you could probably be doing at the moment instead of talking to me. So I mean, I think we've covered a lot of things here, and I think the biggest thing.
Mind if I pull up? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but Denver had a great question. I'm going to pull it up on the screen real quick.
Because it works for you, so.
Yeah, because Comment Tracker's working for me. So while we're waiting, if anyone wants to jump in. So Denver asks, what or when did you go from a follower like we are now to becoming an influencer, and will you share that experience? So, all right, Denver. So I hate the word follower.
He didn't listen to your rant. He didn't listen to your rant.
I hate the word follower because it's not, follower is not the relation. Like Denver, we have had conversations that have helped me as in the work that I do. So a follower just means that you're truxing behind me trying to do the things that I do, and that is not the relationship that we have as someone who I've connected with in the Google Plus space, right? Like we've had conversations about things. We've discussed different matters. Now, I'm not saying that everyone that puts content out in the world is as willing as I am to connect with the people that engage with them. You know, that isn't always the case. But what I will say is that don't think of it as follower or influencer, because I don't think of myself as an influencer. I think of myself as someone who's willing to have conversations with people. And look, this seems like a small delineation, but I think it really is big in how you look at your content. Like, don't think of yourself as a follower. Think of yourself as an audience member who can easily raise their hand and say, hey, I want to come up on stage and have a conversation with you. And if the person who you're trying to converse with is unwilling to do that with,
you know, in the work that I do.
So
a follower just means that you're...
Laura, I'm sorry you have to turn down your radio. No, just supposed to hang out now.
Yeah,
I always wanted to say that.
So, okay, Denver, I hope that answers your question, dude. I don't put yourself in that space, right? Like, you create great stuff. You have tons of knowledge. We've had conversations. Like, it's much more than that. So, you know, just don't. I think that just by thinking about it a little differently will help you put yourself in that space. If that didn't answer your question, then just pop another comment in, and I'll try to get there.
All right, well, we want to bring in our very first audience participation, fearless questioner, Laura. Thank you for joining us. You had a great question. I want Ryan to answer it first, and I'll give you a quick example to help you out. But go ahead and ask your question to Ryan, Laura. Laura, can you hear us? Are you muted? Is she frozen? She looks kind of frozen. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Laura might be frozen.
All right. Well, it was a valiant effort. I'm going to ask the question anyways. I appreciate her taking the time to try and hop in here. But the question was, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, what would you suggest is the best way to approach someone who is influential, but they have no idea who you are? I don't have a problem connecting with someone that I have some connection with, but when I don't, that is scary.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is build a relationship with them first. Oh, well, if your connection is some sort of ask, then you have to try to build a relationship with them first. You cannot. It is not you're not going to be building the type of relationship that you want with someone if you say, you know, if I said to Chris Brogan, hey, you know, who's been on my show, if I just sent him an email and said, hey, Chris, I want you to come on my show, he would say,
who will also be on this show next Thursday.
Yeah, he would say, I don't know who you are.
Don't think of yourself as
I'm not
follower.
sure.
Think of yourself as an audience member who can easily raise their...
I just muted Laura because I'm getting the feedback. So my response there is that build the relationship first. Spend the time getting to know them. Subscribe to their newsletter. Follow them on Twitter. Follow them on Google+. Get to know the types of things that they're interested in. Not just like if they're in the marketing space or some industry, but like what other things are they interested in? Like, are they interested in, like I always say the same story about Chris, but Chris is really good about not taking himself too seriously, right? So he has like this cheeky nature, and I read his email every Sunday, which I think is fantastic, and I email him back all the time, and I'm sure sometimes he reads them and sometimes he doesn't, but over time, over the course of a few years of doing that, I've gotten to know him a small amount, and when I asked him to come on the show, he said, sure, I'd love to. And I'm not saying that it takes years to build up that relationship, but get to know that person first and build a relationship for them, because if you just do an ask, they're most likely going to say no or ignore you, and then that's never good.
I think that's good. I mean, Chris will be on the show next Thursday, so that'll be fun. Looking forward to that. But just last night, reached out to Jay Bear to be on the show, and I have followed Jay for a long time, and I'm nobody. I'm just a dude that sells insurance in his spare time and talks to Ryan Hanley on a couple of occasions. And I think it's all about, like I said, building those relationships. And once you have that, I would say maybe focus on one relationship first. Because people want to just build relationships with all these different people. Focus with one first, and then provide as much value as you can with that. And then from there, that relationship will then allow you to, an easier foot in the door with the other relationships. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because like let's say I didn't know Jay, but I know Marcus, right? I could say, hey, Marcus, would you mind reaching out to Jay and just letting him know that I'm not like some crazy stalker person, that this is what I'm into, and I would like to have a chat with him if that would be cool. And if Marcus thought that that was a good idea or he was willing to do that, he reaches out to Jay, and now we've been introduced, and now we have the ability to build a relationship. So I think the worst thing you can do is cold ask somebody who is quote unquote an influencer for a thing, right? You can cold send them a message and say, hey, I would love to help you. I would love to help you. I see that you're making a few. Like Wade did this with Jay. Wade Harmon did this with Jay. And I'm gonna make this quick because I gotta bounce in like 3 minutes, which I apologize to everyone for. I was unaware of this childcare obligation that I had until a few hours ago. Jay Bear was posting on Google Plus, and he's posting stuff, but he wasn't formatting his post properly. He was doing a lot of link dumping. He just didn't necessarily. He hadn't spent a lot of time here, and he didn't really understand the proper formatting for Google Plus. He wasn't doing it to be a spammer. He just didn't get it. And Wade sent a message to him and said, "Hey Jay, you'd get a ton more traction if you just change these few things. Here's how people really like to receive their content on Google Plus. And if you ever have a question about it, I'll do a private hangout with you and just show you, no problem, whatever." Completely nice thing to say. Reached out to this guy, and what did Jay do? He took him up on his offer. Jay now creates great posts. He's absolutely crushing it. He's going to be on the Fearlessly Questioning show, which I'm sure is going to be one of the pinnacles of his career. And, it's just like, that's how you do this thing. He gave of himself to this other person, and what he got back is a great relationship with Jay's a great guy, with a great guy who's considered an influencer and someone that can help introduce Wade to even more people. So it's all about, not being a jerk.
It's pretty simple, just basic human principles, right?
Yeah, basic human principles.
Right. Sum up the whole show. Basic human principles are going to get you where you need to go. No, but I do appreciate taking the time. We don't want to have Duke sitting on the curb somewhere in his little bouncer, parentless. So we're going to have to get you out here. Ryan, thank you for taking the time. What do you want people to do? Where do you want people to go? I know you got a lot of things going on.
Best place to connect with me, RyanHanley.com. Also, big part of my thing moving forward is going to be doing a lot of videos on YouTube. Thanks to some words of encouragement from Joey, I was considering a few different things, and he said,
"What did I do?"
You told me that I should create videos on YouTube and not put them other places. So,
oh, really? That was me? Okay, I'll take credit for it. All right.
So if you want to connect with me on YouTube, that's a great place, Ryan Hanley 13. Lots of great stuff are going to be coming down the YouTube pipe for my brand and content marketing, audience building, Google Plus there. Love to connect.
All right, well, Ryan, I do appreciate you taking time. Before I let everybody go, I do have to get my one ask out here as we're building this new thing. If you thought this was enjoyable at all, if you got a lot out of this, the one thing that I would really help us out to get going here is to go ahead and subscribe in iTunes. This is a podcast as well, and there's a lot of different parts of this thing. And if you subscribe to the feed, I think you'll kind of get it. And like we talked about earlier, Ryan had a rant that we posted. I had a rant that we posted to kind of lead you guys into this conversation. All that's going to come out in a nice, logical format on the podcast stream. So if you can go over there, subscribe. If you don't want to, rate it or review it right away because you haven't seen enough of it, that's fine. Maybe ask your own fearless question in the review section. Let's see what that does. Let's see if we break iTunes and see what they're going to do with that. But feel free to go do whatever you want over there and just let them know that we exist and that you might want to be interested in joining us. So I dropped a link in the event page for anybody that does want to go ahead and do that. Ryan, it's been a blast. I'm sure I will have to have you back on at some point. We'll have to think of something more fearless to get your more fearless questions out.
Yeah, I was worried. Those were pretty easy, so you have to get. I thought you were going to come at me even harder, but that was good. I really enjoyed it. A ton of questions no one has ever asked me before. I've never obviously told the story about Grow and that kind of stuff, so very, very cool, dude. I'm happy for you. This is an awesome format, and I know you'll be crushing it soon.
I appreciate it. I'll have to work on my question asking then, I guess, for the next show. All right. Appreciate it. Take it easy, everyone.
Bye, guys.